Good morning. It is indeed a blessing to be among God's people, and thank you for having me. I don't think any of you know me. My name is Nick Marica. I'm the incredibly handsome new addition to the ATS staff. We were discussing back there the topic of facial hair, and I've had my beard for many, many years. And one day I decided I was going to shave it off. And I shaved it off, and I looked in the mirror, and I was looking at my dad. And my wife said, "I'm not waking up next to my father-in-law. Grow it back." So needless to say, I did, and it's going to stay there for the foreseeable future. But I thought I might comment very, very briefly about how this all came to be and what God is doing, because you never, ever know what God is going to bring about in your life. Several years ago, I had the pleasure of sitting with Marvin Busey, and I met David. We met after church over lunch, and we got to discussing some discipleship materials that our ministry has put together. And several years later, we had some more discussions, and then I got an email last October about this time from Pastor David Mazuma of Bomi Ministries to go to Kenya. And I'd never heard of them. I'd never heard of Bomi Ministries, and they didn't even have a Facebook page, for goodness sakes. So how was I going to go? And my wife expressed, "Do you trust these people?" Well, I found somebody who had actually been to Kenya. And so one thing led to another, and I actually went. And I got over there, and Pastor David is just an awesome man of God. He runs 5 churches throughout Kenya. He ministers through he and his subordinates to about 800 people. And he told me one evening when we were sitting in my hotel room while we were doing the conference, he said, "Nick, the thing I really need is more of a Bible education." And he said, "We're so poor over here that people can barely afford clothing, much less books." And I said, "That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I am associated with an institution called Amherst Theological Seminary." And I said, "They do correspondence courses to prisoners." And I said, "I don't see any problem with modifying it and getting it over here to Kenya." So I came back. David and David started becoming friends. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, before we knew it, Amherst Theological Seminary is going to be expanding into Kenya, and from there, Central Africa. And all this from a simple lunch and a simple email from people who didn't even know each other, which just shows the extraordinary things that God can do from the most humble of beginnings. And in your own walk with Christ, I would urge you to be open to the simplest of opportunities. We are planning on distributing Bible materials over there. John and I are planning on going next April. We have already some speaking engagements set up in Kenya and possibly Uganda. Who knows where this is going to lead? But I do know this: it's going to foment renewal and revival in Central Africa. And people will come to Christ because of it, and because of the support that you give to this seminary. So we thank you. Praise God. Please be in prayer about this effort as we go. You all have a blessed day, and thank you so much.